Y'all turn each other into bullet bags. Meanwhile, let's see what black men were arrested for today. Here go the mugshots. Okay, let's just pick this guy, because this guy's from 11 hours ago. Let's see what you guys have been up to today. These kings are kings. Man arrested in Tyler on capital murder warrant. Oh my God. He's so useful to the community. This will be a hard loss for us. We need to get him back. Free the murderer. Free them all.
The video you are about to watch is a deconstruction of a personality, the examination of a character, a few characters in fact, a journey into a fractured mind in an attempt to put those pieces together into a story that makes sense. Along the way, you'll learn about how easily love turns to hate, sparking a rapid descent into darkness, the price of chasing fame and stardom at any cost, and the despair of facing a star-crossed fate. You can learn a lot by looking into someone's eyes. Not quite their life story, but something more. That's why we say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So whenever you're in search of answers, take a long, hard look into those eyes. I'm the Unspecialist, and this is Soul Searching. A look inside the mind of a divestor. The information in this video is all publicly available. However, the accuracy may not be perfect. As a result, I will ensure that as much information as possible comes from the subject themselves. This video also addresses dark themes such as child abuse, drug abuse, and sexual abuse. Viewer discretion is advised. This is the story of a woman known as Sharika Soal, a 38-year-old divested black woman and adoption survivor. She is the self-proclaimed founder of the hashtag BWDivest, or Black Women Divest, and the key influencer in the Black Women Divest movement. She has a large following on social media with over 85,000 followers on Twitter, 35,000 on Instagram, and 329,000 on TikTok. She's well known for going viral with her takes on dating and relationships, sharing her adoption story, and her thoughts on men, black men in particular.
This is for the black men that are harassing and threatening me because they found out I have a half-white son. First of all, it's not that you're black that I didn't date you. It's that most of you speak to women like you're standing on a prison yard, and I don't find that attractive. Secondly, no one complains when black men date outside of their race and give their wealth to women outside of their race. But you have a problem when you see a black woman that has dated outside of their race. Is it because you're trying to convince us that we were undesirable when the fact is you're the one that's undesirable and you only have a certain amount of options and we figured it out? I'm trying to understand why men are so shocked that women have decided we don't want to be a free maid and do your laundry until we're nursing home age and take care of you while you cheat on us with half the neighborhood. Like, marriage doesn't look that good, guys. And I'm just trying to understand, why are y'all so shocked that women don't want to do that? I am bitter because I have never met a man that didn't abuse me in some way. And I don't understand why I should have to keep trying to find a man that isn't going to be abusive to me so that I can live happily ever after. I think that it shouldn't be that hard for me to find a good guy. But unfortunately, all that's out there is a bunch of liars and abusers, and I give up. I don't give a shit if you think I talk about chicken too much. I fucking love chicken. I eat it every day. In fact, I just had some. I don't give a shit if you think I'm crazy.
It's easy to look at the person on the other side and dismiss them as crazy, a lunatic. However, that's intellectually lazy. Even if your initial judgment is accurate, there's always more to the story. Even if you believe that their statements and actions are unjustified and ridiculous, you have to understand that they think the exact opposite. This reminds me of something Morgan Freeman once said.
Villains don't perceive themselves as wrong, and all heroes do not wear capes. Villains are made, not born. Most times, the villain and the hero's beginnings, unlike their endings, take nearly identical shape and form.
Sharika Michelle Banks was born on July 1st, 1984 in Chicago, Illinois. Born into underprivileged circumstances, she was soon given up for adoption. This is where our ill-fated story begins.
You're a victim of abuse as a kid,
Yeah,
and you blame Child Protective Services, right?
I do. I was adopted when I was 4, almost 5, with my older sister, who's 16 months older than me. We're 16 months apart. So we came from the same adoption home. I had a little brother, but he was adopted at like 6 months old or something. He was adopted right away. Make a long story short, I was adopted by these people that were supposed to be my foster family. I understood they were my foster family. Some time passed, and I remember my mom coming and asking me, did we want to change our names? I didn't. My sister did. So we were adopted. Soon after that, I will never forget, like, my dad was just weird. Like, he would start reaching for me when I was, getting out of the shower, and he would say things like, oh, I'm just trying to see if you wet yourself. And I just always thought that was weird because, I just dried myself off. So it was just stuff like all of a sudden I just realized like my new dad was just weird. And
As soon as they signed the papers, almost.
it seemed like.
Oof,
It seemed
that
like.
was a trap and a half. Huh?
And my dad was very weird. I have a younger sister. I won't say her name, but she has cerebral palsy. And I just remember just sitting there watching my dad supposedly stretching my little sister's legs at night. But I didn't understand, why would he need to be stretching her legs at night? Why was he doing that? Why couldn't he do that when she was awake? And I just didn't like it, And so I used to try to like infiltrate that. Like, what are you doing? I used to like sit by my little sister's door. And I don't know, he did it to me too, And then there was times as I was getting older, like from 7 to 9, I honestly think that he was putting stuff in my breakfast and in my food to make me sleepy and stuff, because I would wake up like in my bed.
After adoption, Sharika took her parents' name and became known as Sharika Soal. Victims of child sexual abuse inevitably deal with the psychological effects of what they suffered. Most commonly, those effects are low self-esteem, feelings of worthlessness, a lack of trust, especially in adults, and an abnormal view of sex. This low self-esteem and a troubled relationship with sexuality often continue throughout their entire lives. They typically have a strong aversion to things of a sexual nature, or they become hypersexual and have a strong interest in sexual things. Sharika fell into the latter category. While still dealing with the demons of her childhood, not too long after turning 18, Sharika started a career in pornography. Her industry name was Miracle. She appeared in 14 X-rated productions with 10 different studios. Most notably, she appeared in Michael Stefano's 2004 production, Feeling Black No. 3, White Guys Down with Brown. She also featured in and made the cover of Bootylicious in 2004, and also featured in the 2011 release of Freaky Black College Girls, alongside Wesley Pipes, Byron Long, and Persuasion, among others. During a Twitter exchange with men who were calling her out for her past in porn, she claimed that as an 18-year-old, she was unaware that when she signed the contract, the videos she would feature in would end up being distributed to stores across America. This isn't the first time former adult content creators have claimed that they were unaware of the implication of their choices while young. So, ideally, Sharika Soal deserves some grace. However, it appears that she hasn't abandoned her adult content creation. She has a $20 a month OnlyFans page under the name Sharika Soal, with a cover photo that's a picture of her partially exposed bosom. The caption says, DM for long videos. And given that the location is in California, it's safe to say that the spirit of miracle still resides in Sharika's mind.
Well, anyway, my band's been doing good. We've been doing a lot of shows, and I've really been just focusing on my music and just like getting out there and band practice and all that other good stuff. I haven't really been trying to be funny or anything lately. And I am 2 days away from being 12 weeks pregnant. Hey, what's up, people? I'm 13 weeks. And other than that, I'm having a little bit of baby mama drama, daddy drama. I know who he is, and he knows he's the father and everything. We just don't get along.
He thinks I should give it up for adoption. Guess what, people? I am 21 weeks pregnant, almost 22, and that is the beginning of 6 months. The last video I made, I was 13 weeks. My baby daddy is still an asshole. In fact, his mother's an asshole too. And you know, I'm really not like scared to put his name on blast. His name is Patrick Noonan. He has a MySpace. You guys should go type in the name Pat Noonan, Noonan, and cuss him out. Yeah, so to all those like single mothers out there that have to deal with this shit, I didn't know it could be this hard. I didn't know, but it's okay. I have 3 shows coming up, so yes, I'm still doing music, still doing shows. However, I've decided to steer away from my band. I mean, I'm still gonna have my electric guitar doing his little twinkle, but I just feel like I need to simplify my life now that my little boy's coming. Yes, it's a boy. Did I tell you that? Yeah, it's a boy. I've decided to name him Jacob Addison Soal. I'm giving him my last name because I love him. I just signed a lease for a 2-bedroom, so I won't be in this fabulous 1-bedroom anymore. I'm gonna upgrade myself to a 2-bedroom. I am now 28 weeks pregnant. Me and Patrick still don't get along. I don't know, he's coming around slowly but surely, but who really cares about that? I'm not doing any music, not doing any shows, just can't get myself to do it. I have a show actually August 2nd. And my due date is July 16th. So, yeah, I will be doing a show a couple weeks after I give birth, but I'm a strong woman.
In addition to low self-esteem, sexual abuse survivors tend to suffer from anxiety and identity issues. These often lead to aggressive, antisocial, and attention-seeking behaviors. Some sufferers turn to social media for validation and end up exhibiting this attention-seeking behavior in their online interactions with others. In a question and answer segment with band Bombshell, Sharika was quite candid about putting herself out there. She said, "It's true, I'm out there all day long, posting statuses and talking to people and figuring out what can I put together to announce this next thing. I'm constantly socializing with people because it's what brought me here. But in real life, I would rather not socialize." After dipping her toes into the X-rated world, Sharika decided to try to build a music career. From a very young age, Sharika knew that she wanted to be a performer, playing every instrument her parents would put in front of her. After finding her passion in playing guitar and singing, she moved to Los Angeles, California to pursue her dreams. After singing background for acts like UK band Coyote and Angie Stone, she moved back to Iowa and started her band, Lady Soul, alongside guitarist Mike Mayo. The band released a few songs and became known in central Iowa. However, there was no hope of a breakthrough until 2012, when Sharika was offered a chance at national recognition through an audition for America's Got Talent. In an article published by Iowa State Daily, Sharika said, "I'm just in this very transitional part of my life. I'm close to 30 and I have a 3-year-old child. What I want to do is something like go on America's Got Talent for the exposure. I want to be bigger than just a band that's known in the central Iowa area, which I feel good about, where we're at, but it's not paying my bills or anything. I'm ready for a more concrete career." Unfortunately, America's Got Talent let her audition, but she didn't advance and they never aired the footage. The Voice also declined to offer her an audition. In another segment of the band Bombshell interview, Sharika said, "Selling out just goes with my goals, you know. When I use the words selling out, I'm actually referring to the word mass success, commercial success, because I want to reach that many people. When I look at Lady Gaga's career, she's affected so many people who felt like they couldn't speak for themselves, or who were depressed, or felt like they didn't fit in. That's the type of effect I eventually want to have on people. So I'm willing, in turn, to make partnerships with people where it might look like I'm just selling out. But my overall goals are a good life for my son and to reach people that walk the same line that I've walked. I've never had anybody but me telling me that I was worth it and that I could make it. When you come from what I've come from, you have nobody but yourself to turn to. I just feel like if I can get really, really successful, then I can help a lot of people. So that's what I'm going for." In 2013, after going solo, she signed with Justin Timberlake, hoping that his MySpace Pick Me project would be a path to stardom. Unfortunately, that too was a bust. During this time, Sharika stayed close to the industry, working as a writer and publicist for names like Huffington Post and Mama D of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. However, things soon took a turn for the worse. Sharika Soal, better known as Michelle Banks of Michelle Banks PR, who, after she was fired from her position as Mama D's publicist, illegally and unethically accessed Mama D's Twitter, posting threats and slander against Ricardo Kelly and Crowd Control Entertainment, Bernadette Giacomazzo and KBPR, and Mama D herself, which led to Mama D's Twitter being deactivated until the matter was settled. In response to the drama, Mama D released a statement saying, "It is unfortunate that my steps to positively improve not only my life, but the lives of my loved ones and colleagues have attempted to be thwarted by an obviously disgruntled ex-employee with an unfounded vendetta against the trusted members of my team. However, God is in control of such things, and I refuse to let such things veer me off course. I will continue to be positive in both my behavior and my influence, and I will rise above such nonsense. I'll be back on Twitter as soon as the matter is cleared up, and I wish Sharika Soal, or Michelle Banks, or whatever she chooses to call herself, nothing but the best. I hope she has learned from this unfortunate mistake that it is unethical and illegal to access a client's social media account once her services are no longer needed. And I trust that this lesson will be applied to any potential future clients she may have. In conclusion, I forgive her for her actions against me, and I respectfully ask that she cease with her threats against my team and keep her future behavior professional." It seems that Sharika did not heed Mama D's words, as just 2 years later, she was caught up in more controversy with an even bigger star, Kim Kardashian. The 2016 TMZ article read, "Kim Kardashian's preparing to drop the legal hammer on a writer who published a story claiming the Paris robbery was a total sham, purely cooked up for publicity." The letter demands Sharika Soal, a contributor to the Huffington Post, publish a retraction and an apology for her October 8th post, which quoted Kim as saying her ordeal was a publicity stunt gone horribly wrong. Kim says that the quote is a fabrication, and her lawyers point out that quote was actually pulled from a satirical website, a clear shot at Soal's journalistic skills. Soal tells TMZ it's impossible for her to give Kim what she wants because HuffPo has blocked her out of her account, so she can't post the retraction. She says she's explained her dilemma to Kim's lawyers. After the Kim K debacle, ending things at Huffington Post, drama would continue to follow Sharika. Under another alias, Lady Media, Sharika would publish a hit piece on her California realtor, Martha R. Lopez, accusing her and the owner of the home she rented of racism, abuse, sending someone to intimidate her, and fostering inhumane living conditions. Even if the accusations were true, it was odd that she chose to primarily fight the matter using publicity instead of legal action.
Every fucking day, racism is on my social media. What kind of quality of life is that for me? Why should I have to live in a world for my son to grow up and see white people talking to me like that? And I'm supposed to tell him that these people are good? This isn't good. For me or nobody. Don't sit here and pretend that this is good for me or any black person to go through for every single day of our lives. And we have to hide. We should have to hide from online to avoid being verbally abused by racists. This is insane, and I cannot take it.
I was adopted by a pedophile and a woman who worked in law enforcement as a criminologist in the state of Iowa. When I was 10 and 11, I started calling the cops on my adopted parents, but because of my adopted mother's position with law enforcement, they wouldn't believe me. So she would just tell them I was crazy, and because I was hysterical and crying, I would end up getting tackled and punched by the police. This happened about 4 or 5 times until I was sent to a group home where I stayed for 15 months. I went through some of what I would consider horrific things with my adoption, but the worst thing, and that's what I want you guys to understand something about these people. This person also ended up sexually assaulting my son because nobody listened to 10-year-old me. And I became confused about my reality. I'm going to answer this question to educate the public. There are hundreds of thousands of families in America who have a predatory family member who preys on several members of that family. Also, I'm 38 years old, so when I'm talking about being a little girl, it's over 30 years ago. It's a long time ago. The 90s were a different ball game, okay? With that being said, when my son was hurt, I was 29, so 20 years had passed by, okay? And my parents had done everything in their power to convince me nothing happened to me. I had bad dreams, and my dad just really likes women. Okay, I couldn't put him in the place of being a pedophile. With that being said, when my son was hurt, my brain put back together like a jigsaw puzzle, and I had a literal mental breakdown because I realized how hard my parents had fought to convince me of something that I had known all the time in my gut. Don't blame me for what my dad did to my child.
After her son's sexual assault, Sharika looked to take legal action against her parents. Interestingly, she decided to use publicity as a weapon, with social media as the instrument to fight for her cause. She helped create the Hollywood resistance movement to expose pedophiles and help sexual assault victims. While with the Hollywood resistance, she built up the precursor to the hashtag Metoo movement, which was the hashtag Solidarity for Survivors. Sharika, along with activist Maria Ruiz, launched the hashtag and got 1.3 million signatures on their petition. Celebrities soon joined in solidarity, and the hashtag MeToo movement came after. Sharika quickly became disillusioned when she started to see self-promoting posts from activists like Tarana Burke and Alyssa Milano, who used the hashtag MeToo and Black Lives Matter to draw attention to their own political ambitions. Sharika decided to leave the movement and began to go after Alyssa Milano and other activists who she believed hijacked her work. Despite claiming to be independent, Sharika found herself at home in online conservative communities. She was even very vocal about her support of Donald Trump, even reaching out to the then president for help in her son's case. Posting a screenshot on Twitter, Sharika tweeted, "I'm going to cry. The president is helping me with what happened with my son. I'm shaking. It sure as hell wasn't cute. Thank you so much, internet, for teaching me about hashtag MAGA." Sharika was called out by prominent liberal black male activist Bishop Talbot Swan, who she had invited into one of the resistance groups that she managed. Bishop Swan accused her of being a fraud and pretending to be anti-Trump and anti-MAGA, and he had a point. In just 4 months, her rhetoric had completely switched. As a result, Sharika continued to receive attacks online from normal and high-profile Twitter accounts supporting the resistance. Meanwhile, her foray into the online conservative community led her to the Proud Boys, who she associated with because they were fighting against the Hollywood resistance movement that she was once a part of. But everything changed when she received a hateful email from a random person online claiming to be a resistance supporter. The email had the subject "F you and die N-word" from Melody Burns. It read, "You will regret your shit, N-word. Yes, you are a effing N-word, and watch your back, bitch. The resistance isn't the war you want and will kill your ugly black ass. All you effing black N-word coons need to knock off the crap. We can get rid of you and no one will miss you, not even your son." Sharika took this threat as representing all of the resistance and became further entrenched into the conservative side, even expressing alt-right rhetoric. The death threat, full of slurs, made her feel justified in attacking the resistance. Her tweets grew bolder and more aggressive in support of the right, and stronger in critique of the left. Have a look. See for yourself. Throughout the Trump presidency, Sharika would continue her campaign against pedos, liberals, and the resistance. However, she began to direct more and more tweets at black men. All kinds of attention was on Sharika, from the left and from the right. And it was around this time that her Divestor rhetoric began to leak into Twitter, starting with the hashtag BWDivest in 2018. She continued to rile her detractors, professing her support for Trump and her love for white men, yet at the same time vociferously supporting black women. She would post about black men committing crimes, black men failing black women, black men being colorist, and slowly but surely, hashtag BWDivest began gaining traction. Her tweets eventually drew the attention of Tariq Nasheed, who incorrectly assumed that her abusive adoptive father was white.
My adopted dad is a black man. He's also a pedophile. And I'm really sick and tired of men like you hopping up in my mentions blaming white people for why a black woman who was sexually assaulted by her black dad has a problem with black men who sexually assault and abuse others in the community. There are real consequences for black men abusing their children. And instead of getting mad at the women who grow up and have a disdain for you, maybe talk to the men. Okay?
She then tried to sue Tariq, but that came to nothing. Soon after, she launched her website and blog, thedivestedblackdiary.com. Her simple posts, which read like frustrated musings, were starting to get clicks. Here are a few excerpts. One of her first posts was "I do not hate black men." It reads, "There are black men who treat women with respect, but I have not dated them. Geography matters. Of course, I would love to have a child that looks like me. Of course, I'm down for black love. But I turned 35 and my fertility had been wasted by someone who lied to me for 5 years and ended up threatening me with a gun. So, I kinda gave up. But I have to say, I do not hate black men. I hate how the majority behave towards women in society. Good people exist." Another post reads, "My heart breaks silently every day as I watch these black men abuse black women and girls. And so many good black men refuse to stand up for us and protect us. This is wrong. Why does the black man want our undying love while he treats us like we are less than nothing? How can they want someone but refuse to treat them like a human? Animals are treated better by black men as a whole than the black woman all over the world." Another post reads, "My life has always been safer and more peaceful by avoiding black men. It's literally just that simple. Seeing their behaviors as a collective from afar was more than enough for me to know to keep my distance. I haven't been infected or robbed or beaten or abandoned with a child or put into dangerous situations or ever paid for a date just by avoiding them. 9 in 10 women, regardless of race, lose badly once they deal with black men. I don't like those odds, so I don't bother. Plus, I don't find their behaviors masculine or attractive."
I don't need therapy. Black men need therapy. No, their black dads also have something to do with how they're raised. And that's like the main problem with our community is y'all literally minimize the actual destruction it's caused to have so many black men walk out on their children. I know I see it way too much. It's too obvious that even other races know that's what y'all do. And now y'all are doing that to other races. You are literally getting with white women and now they're popping up all over TikTok as single mothers. You keep talking about black men. I sure will. That sounds a little threatening. Have you ever dated? I did date a black man and he was trash. He was so trash. You want to talk about it? I dated him off and on for 3 years. And I was into the whole, you got to stick with the black man. You got to look the other way if they don't have that much money. I was a fool. I paid for his Ubers. He was a bum. He was a bum. He's the reason I own a gun. Because this is how everything ended. This person stole $2,100 from me 3 days before Christmas. Prior to that situation, I had let him borrow my car. When I demanded to have my car back because he'd had it for 2 days, he texted me a picture of a gun, threatening me while he was in possession of my car. I'm not lying. I ain't got to lie. A lot of black men are like him. And then I got on the internet in 2018 because I was completely heartbroken. This is somebody that whenever they call and ask me for money, I try to help them. I try to help them with my career. I was always super supportive, all that stuff, right? And then I found a bunch of other Black women who were just like me and were also having these horrific experiences with Black men. And that's how the divest movement began on my end, because I found other women who had been financially abused, mentally abused, sexually abused, and all that stuff by Black men. I'm not going to heal. Just accept it. There's no healing.
Her constant clashes with the online pro-Black community drew more attention to the divest community, and it began to take on a new life. Sharika's site got more and more clicks, and her Twitter following grew. Suddenly, by mid-2020, hundreds of accounts were tweeting using the hashtag #VWDivest. A subreddit, Black Women Divest, started in June 2020. Even as Sharika's blog began to falter late in 2020, other divest blogs soon began to pop up, and the divest movement steadily grew into the force that we see today. Sharika's troubled childhood and her encounters with the toxic sides of both left and right-wing politics undoubtedly helped to spawn her personal ideology. Her penchant for social media and publicity, driven by her relentless early desire for fame and notoriety, led her to broadcast these thoughts on the internet. The outrage she generated online and the cult of followers sympathetic to her story helped bring attention to her cause and her beliefs. Looking at her story, you could say she has a sense of justice and a talent for starting movements. You could even call it fate. However, somewhere along the way, she fell into darkness, and her message became muddled with trauma and resentment. Nevertheless, there is truth and justice in her message, a part of it at least.
You know, people don't see it, so it's just me kind of trying to let them know, like, CPS is a pedo ring. They know a guy who knows a person, who knows a judge, who they can call for an emergency order. It's not always a process of going into a huge courtroom and having, like, you know, all these people come in with their like the guardian ad litem. There's people that know a social worker, that knows a CPS worker, that knows a judge that's willing to sign off. And me and my sisters were adopted privately that way. You know, I don't remember us going into some huge court and it being a huge thing. These are supposed to be my foster family, and all of a sudden they turned into my new family. And then, you know, my mom, I understood that she worked for the cops. I understood that Linda Sauer worked for the Division of Criminal Investigation in Iowa. So it was weird to see that my adopted father was behaving this, and then she would tell me, oh, you're dreaming, or he would never do that, or if he did that, it was an accident. Like, she was very, you know, it was just, it's hard to understand when you're 9 and then you know your mom's like the good guys, you know? So it was just like a lot of mental torture, I guess.
Yeah, it is mental.
You know, they wrote me off as a crazy person. They believed everything Linda said. Linda said I was crazy. She said I was, you know, lying. They kept pumping me full of medication. I gained 100 pounds.
Jeez.
You know, I was in and out of hospitals, and nobody was listening to me because of Linda's position. So you end up forcing all that down, and you end up getting older, and by the time you're 16, your father's not attracted to you anymore. So that problem stopped, you know? But so you shove it all away, and you just try to go on with life, and you just try to forget that your parents were like that, you know? So yeah, when I was 28, it all came, I had no choice but to face what I've been ignoring. No, we're not. The women pedos and, you know, that our females can be just as dangerous, you know, for little kids as men. My mother had such a huge job. The only reason I decided to speak out when it happened to my son was just that I felt guilty that it happened to my son.
Of course
I feel like all the times when I thought about just leaving my family and just having nothing to do with them, I just felt like if I would have just had strength that day, then this wouldn't happen to Jacob. We'd have a difference. So now I won't be quiet about it anymore, you know, because I know there's other girls like me.
What are you trying to do? Like, I mean, you know, what's your long-term goal? To get them in jail?
Yeah, I mean, get them in jail or just shake up CPS, that we are going to grow up. You're going to have to be held responsible for not checking up on the kids, for giving these kids to all these pedophile people, to the highest bidder. We grow up. I grew up, you know. I was adopted from Chicago. There's 3 of us. And my brother who got adopted by a different family, he ended up with pedophiles too. So how do we all end up with with these powerful, rich people who had, high jobs that should be good for us to go into their homes, we'd be taken care of, but they were pedophiles.
Judging people is one of the easiest things to do. However, it's one of the hardest things to do right, especially on first impression with limited information. Nevertheless, we do it every day with little concern for whether or not we got our judgments right. The old cliche rings out, never judge a book by its cover, but it falls on deaf ears because people aren't books, and the covers we judge are how these people actively choose to present themselves to the world. Who are we to see them as anything different?
So all Black men are not the same. Most of you are the same. I'm not going to stop saying it until you act differently